Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. And welcome to Wednesday. It's our Walk On Wednesday day today, where we bring somebody that we think is cool, bring them on the show, pick their brain for 10 minutes. And before we announce them, we're going to announce that Mara is not here. I think it might be the first show Mara ever missed. And
No, she missed one before.
And I'm angry.
No, remember she missed one before.
She missed one before?
Yeah.
Maybe
I remember
missed
because
that
that's
too.
the first time we played the Welcome Back Cotter thing, right?
Oh, yeah. Maybe that was it. How are you, Kaustubha? All good?
Doing good.
I see you have if you're listening on the Zoom show, you can see Kaustubha's giving darshan of his altar there. You can see in the background.
Yeah, Parmananda asked for that the other day. I don't know if I want to do it every day, but
No, it's
just
not
thought,
special.
you know,
You know what you got to
cartoon
be like?
occasion.
You got to be like Bunky Bihar. We get darshan and they close the curtain. You move the camera and they close the curtain. They move the camera and they close the curtain. Because they're scared. They're so merciful. They might just jump off the altar and try to embrace you or follow you around. Krishna's like that. Krishna's amazingly like that. That's why pure devotional service is actually very, very rare. Because once you get it, then you own Krishna. And then Krishna's going to start following you around. So he doesn't give that prema bhakti to anybody or everybody. He's like, he keeps it like very privately. But then when you keep petitioning and say, no, Krishna, you're all I want. And then all of a sudden he just has to reciprocate. And so Krishna will actually jump off the altar. So Kaustubha's deities are very merciful. He's giving this darshan, but at any minute he could just close that curtain. Can't take it cheaply. So we're here. So we got to bring on Narayani. Welcome, Narayani.
Yeah.
Let's unmute her.
Unmute. There we go.
You know how to do that, Narayani? There she is. Welcome, Narayani. It says Nicole because just the other day her name. Hare Krishna, welcome. It said just the other day your name was Nicole, and now your name is Narayani. She got initiated by Kripamoya Prabhu, who we love, who's been a guest on our show. A very evolved and wonderful soul, really pure at heart. And I just want to say welcome, congratulations, accept my obeisances. And of course, she's like right in there. Like it's her day off from work. She works, in the workforce of Zurich. She's from Leipzig, Germany. But on her day off, where is she? She's at the Zurich temple, just like rendering menial service.
Oh, that's the Zurich temple where you're at right now?
Yeah,
I thought maybe that was still Bhaktivedanta Manor or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome. So you just give us a brief story of your spiritual journey and why you wanted to get initiated and what initiation was, and just give us a little background.
Okay.
You're a regular Zoomer too.
Me.
I just want to share. She listens every day. Okay, I apologize. You talk now.
Oh, don't worry. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I fell in love with kirtan, and some years ago, you, Raghunath, you were in Zurich for a yoga festival and a legendary kirtan hosted by my friend Radha Kripa.
It was legendary because I got
Nobody
kicked
knows.
out of the yoga conference for it.
Yes.
It's
But,
an interesting story. They wouldn't allow me to do any other thing except the yoga conference because they were flying me there. And I said, "Oh, come on, some devotees are like setting up like it was a little program of chanting." And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Who cares? And they kicked me out of that Swiss yoga conference for that. And the guy
You mean
would
like the
not
next
accept
year they
an
wouldn't invite
apology.
you back, or
No, it's beyond that. The guy publicly chastised me in front of all the yoga teachers. Oh, it was so nasty. Anyway.
Okay.
Still, I heard they took all the money, which they got from the kirtan. Radha Kripa told me that.
Yeah,
she just gave it to them. She was like, I don't want trouble.
Wasn't straightforward. He just said, yeah, if you want to do it, do it. And then we did it. And we just said, I think Radha Kripa or one of those sweet devotees were just like, what should we do? I said, just offer the guy all the money. We got some donations for the temple. Just offer it to him. And so we did, but he still was just a little bitter. It's okay. I go to Switzerland without that Swiss yoga conference now. So I apologize. So we had a nice little kirtan that night.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this is when I met Radha Kripa, and Radha Kripa was like a mentor to me, like you guys are. And I went to the Govardhan Eco Village with you twice. And when you go there, you take the groups, and at the Govardhan Eco Village, there's this little Vrindavan forest. And as a group activity, we did that Govardhan Parikram. And Radha Kripa told me that if you have a wish, if you have a desire, you can say a prayer when you do the parikram. It's so small that the Dandavat parikram takes you like 20 to 25 minutes.
Oh, there's a Govardhan Hill.
I did it.
There's a Govardhan Hill. That's what she's talking about. The parikram, the walk around Govardhan Hill. It's a miniature, but very identically looking Govardhan Hill. Wouldn't you say that, Kaustubha?
Yeah, it's a good Govardhan Hill for sure.
It looks like Govardhan Hill. Okay, go ahead.
So the second time I went to the Govardhan Eco Village with you, I thought I wanted to ask for a spiritual master. So Krishna miracle number 1.
Okay.
I was desiring to have a spiritual master, and so I prayed for that. And there were many things I did. I did a pilgrimage with you. I started going to the temple here. I still go to every kirtan I can catch because I still love it so much. And I told it before, I was working in a small company, and the small company was purchased by a big one, and then I got laid off, and I went to the Bhakti-Vedanta Manor. There was a course. I sublet my apartment, and I went there. It's called the Bhakti course. You basically learn a lot of basics, everything Bhakti related, living in a temple and whatnot, all the avatars and so many things. And that was a life-changing experience. And I went to the Govardhan Eco Village first, then I went to the manor, and then I went to Govardhan Eco Village again. Mm-hmm. And I had seen Kripa Maya Das. And by the way, it's his appearance day today.
Oh,
it's my spiritual master's
okay.
appearance day today.
Haribo.
Jai Guru Maharaj. Yeah, I saw him there several times giving class. And I started following him on Facebook. He gives classes there. And he mentions that he gives other classes and that one can contact him. And I thought, just once a week a Facebook class, that was not enough. And so I emailed him. I asked him if I can join a mentorship group he had mentioned, and that's what I did. And so I happened to favor him more and more.
So there was a period of time that you waited, and you got to know him, and you asked for initiation.
That was my last year's Kartik vow, or a decision I did during Kartik. I thought I wanted to take a next step. I wanted to make a commitment, and I didn't even mind. I knew that it was going to take a little longer. Briefly after that, I did the Guru Disciple course, And there it says that when you live in a temple, you can ask for that, or you can get initiated within half a year. But I thought, oh, that's way too short. I'm fine with waiting. I just wanted to make this commitment. And I've had online personal one-on-one meetings with him, and then regular mentorship group meetings. And during the summer, he was doing a book club. So I saw him a lot. I could always send him emails. And you know what? When I sent him emails with questions, I got like a little audio message back. Like I had my private class for like about 16, 17, 20 minutes of like him answering my question. That was really amazing. Just addressed to me. I felt very special, I have to say. Yeah. And before I went to Italy, I had just the same week, I had another call with him, and he mentioned spring. And before Italy, that was end of August. And when he mentioned spring as coming up for my initiation, I thought, oh, so soon. That was going through my mind. I thought, oh my gosh, this is soon, even though spring is still some months away.
Narayani is so humble. She's like, oh, so soon. I would have been like, yeah, come on, give it to me. Your natural humility is like, I don't deserve.
So yeah, and that's what I thought. But he said he's giving initiations twice a year, in the fall and in the spring. And for me, it would be spring then next year. And but for the initiations, he's doing little retreats where aspiring disciples, friends, and well-wishers come. And I had signed up for the retreat, which happened last weekend in Scotland. And in the beginning, I was a little late, and then I was on a waiting list. And also during, while I was in Italy, I got the email that I can come. And so I signed up, and I emailed him because he had sent me a message with another class, private class for me, answering my questions. And then he told me that he was very pleased that I'm coming. And I sent him pictures, and he actually said, how can it be that Krishna consciousness is so much fun? Because I told him about Italy. I wrote him about the trip we did to Hamburg and to Berlin to see Satchidananda Swami. And and then 10 days before last Sunday, I got an email where he asked if I would like to get initiated. He told me basically how enthusiastic I am. I contribute this to you, Raghu. I think your enthusiasm is really contagious.
What?
You're so enthusiastic, and this is kind of like, I feel like very enthusiastic as well, and how sincere I am. And then I blacked out. My mind went totally blank, and I thought, what, he wants to initiate me in like 10 days. And then it did actually the only thing that came to my mind. I texted you, Raghu. I asked you, can we call? And I asked you because I thought, well, maybe I should sleep a night over it. But you told me, if your guru thinks you're ready, you should immediately answer him and tell him yes. And this is what I did. And I'm very, very happy. And I have to say, the weekend was mind-blowing. I was already like on Saturday, there was this Vyasa Puja. Radha Kripa, actually, she told me, yeah, for Vyasa Puja, you have to write something and you praise your guru. And I was like, oh, I panicked. I thought, what am I supposed to do? And I wrote it actually just in the airplane, and I was not the last. There were people, they wrote it the same day. And I have to say, I teared up a lot while the others were speaking. And when I was on, my voice was so shaky, but I loved it. I really loved it. Reading, I started with a verse, and then I really loved that Vyasa Puja. And of course, also the initiation.
Sure. By the way, it's a beautiful story. And thank you for sharing, because there's something very powerful when people make commitments. You know, we always say that whatever we do to ourselves, to our body, to our health, to our mind, to our life, we don't just do it to ourselves. I was saying this on my Bhagavad Gita thing the other day. Sometimes we think, especially Americans, think like this. Yeah, you know, it's just my own thing. Especially when they want to do something bad. Ever notice this? Because people are like, it's my own thing. I'm not hurting anybody. And the problem is, when I do something that hurts me, it doesn't just affect me. It's not my own thing. It is everybody that loves me's thing. And if you've ever had a person who's hurt their body, who hurt their life, hurt their intelligence, made bad choices, it breaks a part of your heart. And in Vedic culture, you'll see people trying to raise the bar in their life. And these commitments, these distinct commitments, I'm going to get focused on my spiritual life. I'm going to make a commitment with accountability to a teacher and follow some principles and change my life. And it's the fastest, most rapid way to transform your life is through commitments and accountability. And when someone like you, Narayani, makes these choices, guess what happens? I'm sitting here inspired. All the people that know you from Zoom or know all your friends, they're sitting there inspired. And you have access to a world just like Vyasa Puja. What is that? That's the day you write a letter of appreciation to your teacher on their, birthday. The day to worship. It's a day to worship Vyas, like the author of the Bhagavatam, but the teacher represents Vyas. And you have access to chambers of your heart that you never knew were there. And that is sort of like the gift. You don't even know why you're crying. This person you barely know is reading something to your guru, but you're also tasting, oh yeah, my guru offered that to them and they offer that to me. And I feel transformed by it. It's beautiful. So I want to say not just congratulations, but thank you for inspiring all of us. Incredibly grateful. And I get it. The hook was set and it's over. Now I'm looking at Zoom right now. I'm looking at a bunch of people like, looking around, stuff like that. I've got news for you guys too. The hook is set. It's over. Kiss your material life goodbye. I know you're thinking, well, I like this stuff, but you gotta be balanced. No, there's no balancing in the material world. There's no balancing.
Really? Okay.
No.
There's no
Are you kidding? There's no balance. It's material world. At any minute, the floor could just fall out from you. Good luck trying to balance yourself in the material world. The whole thing is crumbling. Come on, Kaustubha, you know that.
I thought you meant in spiritual practice there's no balancing. Okay.
Well, we're living in the world, and I think what we're trying to do. We're just trying to manage the material world from like collapsing. But to be balanced in the material world, I don't want to be balanced in the material. I want to be a spiritualist. I want to be a spiritualist in the material world, just managing it so it doesn't collapse around me, and it's going to collapse around me anyway. I just got to go. I got to be connected inside. That's where you guys come into my life. Thank you. That's my good morning. Thank you. Congratulations. Now, I know it's your day off and you are cleaning. She's doing service, sweet service at the ashram. So if you need to go, that's okay. Thank you for joining us and sharing with us. And we all give you a big Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Thank you, Narayani. Hari Bol. Isn't that inspiring, Kaustubha?
She's a great soul.
Just making a commitment changes the trajectory.
Well, and it's a two-way commitment too, right? It's not only that the disciple is committing to follow to follow the path laid out by the guru, but the guru is committing to the disciple. I'm here for you, and whatever it takes, I'm going to go through it with you.
And you get someone like Kripamoya Prabhu, who's really personal and doesn't have tens of thousands of disciples or something. He's got like a little family of disciples, and he just works with. It's like getting like. You've probably never been to a therapist, have you, Kaustubha? Do you mind if I ask on the show? Have you ever been to a therapist, like a regular, conventional therapist?
Well, like when I was in high school, they messed with me a little bit.
Okay.
But it wasn't like I was going into it, it was kind
of. You weren't going to therapy on a regular basis. All right. And you go to a therapist and you're like spilling your guts, you're crying, you're like screaming about something. And then all of a sudden the guy's like, okay, 50 minutes is up. Next, please. See you next week. You're like, what? I'm barfing out everything to you. And now you're pulling a cooking timer out on me and telling me to get out? Come on. It's horrible. But now she's got like basically a guru in one sense, like right? That's what we sign up for as devotees. And all of you guys listening today, as we get more integrated with our spiritual self, guess what's going to naturally happen? You're going to become people's best friend. You're going to become their, right? If you're a yoga teacher, you become their trainer, but also you become like their therapist almost. Why? Because we want spiritual advice, how to move in this world. And people will see you integrated and grounded, and they will come to you whether you like it or not. And that's how Narayani will give back to her guru. She'll give back in her integrated self, and people will approach her. Hey, what do you think about this? I see what you're doing. It seems like it's had such positive effect. Tell me. And that's how the process of faith begins and moving forward on our spiritual path.
Okay.
How about that, Kaustubha?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be careful not to say that it's, suddenly you become a therapist. But I get it. You help people. The steps that you take forward, you help people take those same steps, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, people will come to you. You're not going to be a regular therapist, probably, but you will be. I'm sure people come to you, Kaustubha, and say, hey, man, I don't know what to do, or who am I, or why I'm here, or what's my purpose, and you know what I mean? I think those big questions, those big whys. Why is this happening to me? And then we have to figure out why do I want to contribute to this world? These are the big why questions in our life. The whys that will make you cry.
Okay.
We need our why. Alrighty.
Right?
Yeah. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tatojayam udiraye. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha vadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the transcendental Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmadatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in total darkness, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Text, Mara.
We don't have Mara today. We haven't even mentioned that yet, right? We don't have Mara
What's
here
that?
today. Mara's not here.
Didn't we mention that?
I don't know if we did.
I thought we did mention it.
I think we did before the show actually started, like when we were...
Okay.
saying
All right.
whatever.
If you're listening
Mara's not here.
on Apple Podcasts, hey, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and you haven't told us your story, you can go right to your phone. You can do it right now or after the show and tell us your story, how you got here. When you go to reviews and write us a little review, 5-star, please. And tell us your story, how you got here, how you showed up, and what bhakti means to you. So I want to go there today in like 4 hours. And I want to see about 20 new ones. Okay. So if you haven't written into Apple Podcast reviews, today's the day you do it. And it also helps our ranking in the podcast world. Do you know what verse we're in, Prabhu Kaustubha?
We're on text 18. Oh, no, we did text 18 yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're on text 19. So we're hearing about, again and again, right? It's like creation is being described, right? And now Kapila Dev is speaking about all the ingredients of this material world and how it all functions and how it all works and what our relationship to it is. But in a sense, it's coming out again in a creation, in how things manifest in the creation. And again, when we're talking about creation in the Vedic context, it's cycles, right? Cycles of creation and destruction, very long cycles. And so we heard about Pradhan, the unmanifested amalgamation, or like a collection of all these different ingredients, which were the 24 elements. The senses and the sense objects, the mind, intelligence, et cetera, all those things. And then we heard that time is like a 25th element, and time agitates it, right, and makes it start to take shape.
Move.
Yeah. Now
The
we're going
the dough rises.
the dough rises. You begin. Yeah. So now, as this chapter proceeds, it's going to start to go through all those elements again, but show how they arise out in their manifest form. And so that's where we pick up today is going to start to talk about the Mahatattva. I'm going to be honest with you now. To really figure out, I've never done this thing. Like,
Now he's going to get honest with us.
I'm going to get honest with
Wait a
you.
minute, all these times you weren't honest with us?
I'm gonna be honest about this. Is that I don't understand all this stuff that it's speaking about. All the terminology and all this. It's a little somewhat confusing to me. And what you really got to do to figure it all out is either talk to someone that really knows it, or you get several books. You need the Brahma Samhita, you need the Bhagavatam, and maybe a couple other texts, and you begin to piece this all together. What all these terms mean. But
It's almost
let's
like
go through.
studying. It's almost like studying chemistry without a chemistry teacher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a whole nother version of chemistry. It's just from a different vantage point. It's just how they did it in those days and how they broke it all down. But it's just as real as your chemistry course here. In the same way, Ayurvedic medicine is a real way to help the quality of your life using natural medicines. In the same way allopathy it is too. It's just a completely different system. In the same way Chinese is. It's just a different vantage point of healing.
And then beyond that, sometimes even within the tradition, one text will be using a term a little bit differently than another text, and that just makes it a little tougher to work through. But that being said, let's go ahead and read some of this, and the real thing is that we'll see Srila Prabhupada, he emphasizes certain things, even though you may not be getting all the details. That's for more science-minded people and so on. But let's try to take away what Srila Prabhupada is trying to convey to us. Okay. Text 19, Raghunath.
Text 19. After the personality of Godhead impregnates material nature, love that, with his internal potency, material nature delivers the sum total of the cosmic intelligence, which is known as Hiranmaya. This takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destinations of the conditioned souls. I'm going to give that a big what?
So
do you get that?
Well, to some degree, I get it. And other, you see, like even other, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur will speak of Hiranmaya a little differently than Srila Prabhupada speaking of here.
What is Hiranmaya? What is Hiranmaya?
Well, Hiran means like gold, and Hiranmaya generally it refers to something very effulgent. And so when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur speaks about it, he just says like this is effulgent. Srila Prabhupada says it's the sum total of the cosmic intelligence. And I believe in other places Prabhupada will speak about it as being Lord Narayan himself. So and then we know that Lord Narayan is connected. He's like the Deva for the intelligence. It's so how to put all these things together. In my mind, it's not fully crystallized. But let's go ahead and look at it. After the Supreme Personality God, it impregnates material nature. So we had this batter, in a sense.
Yeah.
And then within that batter is getting impregnated. That means the souls who are resting in the body of Lord Narayan at the end of the creation cycle, right? There's creation of the universe. There's destruction of the universe. The souls, all the jivas, all of us, go back into the body on his inhale, right? Then there's another creation. All material ingredients are there. The Lord impregnates it with his glance. The souls go into that material nature. Okay, so it says after that happens, material nature delivers the sum total of the cosmic intelligence. Exactly what that means, I don't know. Right? And then Prabhupada says, which is known as Hiranmaya. We can know that in some sense it's effulgent, but there's the ingredient of intelligence exists within that world, which becomes a part of each of our individual faculty, our individual apparatus for thinking. We all get some of that energy, in our own chitta or in our own thinking apparatus, what we would generally call the mind.
Is this
So-
whole section going to be sort of
We
sort
can
of
move a little
mind,
faster over some of
mind
it.
jumbly like this?
Some of it's hard to figure out. And then it says, this takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destination of the conditioned souls. So in other words, the conditioned souls are there, and now all the equipment that they need is going to be provided for them, starting with the intelligence. Let's look at it like that. But
1 year I just chose not to study trigonometry. Just that I'm not going to do it. I went to the classes, didn't do it. But that was a setup for pre-calc, and pre-calc just right over my head.
okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of like I'm sort of like in trig. It's sort of like I'm in pre-calc right now, and it's just like throwing out Sanskrit words, and it's just like hitting me, and I'm trying to like dodge them, and hopefully you will have the right answer. But it's thick stuff.
Yeah. But let's read this excerpt from Prabhupada's commentary and see what he focuses on. And he's gonna simplify it and focus,
That's
keep us
interesting.
focused. Yeah.
Prabhupada keeps us in the essence here.
So he says, after impregnation, in other words, after from the body of Lord Vishnu comes all the souls, they enter into that batter, and and now their bodies are going to be created, and their minds are going to be created. All the apparatus for their experience in the virtual reality is being created. So after impregnation, material nature delivers all kinds of living entities. In other words, due to their karma, some need to come in this kind of body, and due to this other person's karma, they're going to have to come in that kind of body, right? Mm-hmm. So he says material nature will deliver all kinds of living entities, all kinds of bodies, beginning from the greatest living creature, Lord Brahma, down to the insignificant ant. They're all going to get their bodies. In all varieties of form. In the Bhagavad Gita 14.4, material nature is clearly mentioned as sarva yonishu. This means that sarva. So we spoke about yoni yesterday, right? Physically, it's the word refers to the female reproductive system, the womb, and so on. Sarva yonishu means like the source of everything, right? Everything's being born from it. So everything, all the bodies of all the different living entities are born from that stuff, from material nature, from Prakriti. He says, this means that all varieties of species, demigods, human beings, animals, birds, beasts, whatever is manifest, material nature is the mother, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the seed-giving Father. That's where he wants to bring our mind to, right? And it becomes significant as he goes on. Generally, it is experienced that the Father gives life to the child, but the mother gives its body. Although the seed of life is given by the Father, the body develops within the womb of the mother. So we say God the Father, and we say Mother Nature.
Mother Nature, here we go. This is a Fibonacci spiral, Kaustubha. You got that, right? This is happening, with the bacteria. It's happening with the puppies. It's happening with the humans. And it's happening with the demigods.
Cosmic
and it's
level.
happening in a cosmic way.
Yeah. So
Hey, what do you think about antibiotics?
Oh, you see, that's called a squirrel right there.
No. This has something to do. Listen, antibiotics, they're killing everything inside us.
It's a
Are we
crude type of
responsible?
medicine.
Are we like the Jeffrey Dahmer of biodiversity if we're taking these things? Are we killing everything? How do you feel? Do you think that's like a sin?
I don't think it's a sin, but the point is that from an Ayurvedic perspective, it's a crude way of addressing. You address the symptom rather than the cause.
Right.
So you wipe out the system, but the symptom. But in wiping out the symptom, you wipe out a lot of good stuff too.
Sure.
And
I mean, I get the health. Twist to it, but because we're killing all those things.
No, I mean, when something's aggressive and attacking your body just to survive.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So let us continue. He says, generally it is experienced that the Father gives life to the child and the mother gives its body. Although the seed of life is given by the Father, the body develops within the womb of the mother. Similarly, so now here's your Fibonacci thing. The spiritual living entities are impregnated into the womb of material nature, but the body supplied by material nature takes on many different species and forms of life. Now, this is what Prabhupada, he wants to make this point right now. He's saying the theory that the symptoms of life are manifested by the interaction of the 24 material elements is not supported here. The living force comes directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is completely spiritual. Therefore, no material scientific advancement can produce life. The living force comes from the spiritual world and has nothing to do with the interaction of the material elements. Now that's significant, right? That's important. People theorize that consciousness arises when there's a sophisticated enough arrangement of the material ingredients, right?
Of the machine, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that were true, in order to prove that theory, one would have to create consciousness, right? One would have to create life, but they can't do that. They can't create a human being. They can't create a blade of grass in a laboratory, Life is always coming from life. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying that. He's saying, understand this, that all life is spiritual by nature, is an emanation from the Supreme Spirit, God, and it's not created out of matter. It can't be broken down. It's all eternal. It's not created at one point and then falls apart at another point. Our life is not just this one journey that we take for a very short time in this particular body, but that we are made of completely different ingredients than the Prakriti, right? So all the Prakriti was laid out in the previous verses, all the 24 elements, then the time element was added to that as a 25th element. Prabhupada's saying here is, don't think that we are made of that stuff, right? That our conscious awareness comes out of dull matter. No, we are a completely different ingredient that's been impregnated into that matter. We're given a body to exist in, made out of that matter, but we're not dependent on any of that. Our existence is beyond all that, and the changes and the laws that govern the material energy really have nothing to do with us. So that's where, that's the point Srila Prabhupada is making. He sees that as like what he wants to emphasize here, at least on that verse.
Life comes from life.
Life comes from life, to say it succinctly. Okay.
I'm going to be the takeaway collector today, Kaustubha.
Oh,
you
yeah.
got takeaways, Zoomers. You got to put
people
them on
send
the
in the
board.
takeaways. Yeah.
How do they do that? They just send them on the board to me, I guess. People.
Life comes from life. There's a good one right there, right?
Life comes from life. All right, that's my takeaway. Hold on a second. Life comes from life. Where's my paper?
But Srila Prabhupada, 40, 50 years ago, he was saying, people say that sooner or later they're going to be able to, create consciousness, right? The consciousness.
What did Prabhupada call that? A post-dated check?
Post-dated check, right? It's like someone gives you a post-dated check. It's like, well, do you have, can you back this up or not, right? And he would say, in order to back that up, you need to be able to create consciousness yourself, and nobody's able to do it, right? No, not even that, but so many, let's say, so-called scientists, right? Like, I don't want to say they're entirely so-called scientists, but in others, when they approach this, they don't necessarily approach it from the scientific level. If you're going to approach something scientifically, you have to be willing to experiment with and examine all the possibilities. How about the possibility that life, that consciousness, is irreducible, right? That it's not made of the ingredients that you're able to study with your instruments. That
what? People just can't even have the conversation about it. It's just not even welcome in like a intellectual conversation that there can be a higher intelligence, that there is a spiritual facet to existence. You're not even allowed to ask that question. We've created certain dogmas that we just have to accept, and the new dogma is just material science, and it's just accepted without even, you can't even challenge it.
Yeah, I mean, they call it the knowledge filter, right? Like, in other words, if it doesn't fit in with my theory, then there must be something wrong with the evidence, right? And then you begin to filter out all these things. But if one has integrity as a scientist, then at least at this point, right, they're going to have to admit that it's at the very least a possibility that consciousness is something that it can't be created out of matter. And although they try, but when I remember back when we had Brahmatirtha, Prabhu on the show, who he's a scientist and he's more up to date with all like the most recent research and papers on this kind of thing. But it is picking up a lot of more support within the scientific community that consciousness very well may be something entirely different. And certainly that's what books like Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita have been saying since forever. Okay.
Alrighty.
Text 20.
Text 20. Thus, after manifesting variegatedness, the effulgent Mahatattva, which contains all the universes within itself, which is the root of all cosmic manifestations, and which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation. It's not. Swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution.
So what that, again, there's so much there that I really can't make out, but what is Mahatattva? I think Mahatattva is just that pradhan throw in the ingredients of the jivas in there, and at a certain point of manifestation is called Mahatattva. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's not worry about it, though.
Okay, we're not.
We got to get Chaitanya Charan on here. And
Yeah, let's
have
get
him
the
figure it
spiritual
all out,
scientist
right?
here. I'm,
Yeah, the
looking,
spiritual
I'm looking like a elementary school student.
Okay.
The mode of goodness, which is the clear, sober status of understanding the personality of Godhead, and which is generally called Vasudev, or consciousness, becomes manifest in the Mahatattva.
Yeah, so now the mode of good, Sattva Guna is going to develop now. And this state of consciousness, this sattvic state of consciousness, is also manifesting now. And we call that sattvic state of consciousness Vasudeva, which means pure consciousness, consciousness focused on God, a consciousness which is capable of being focused on God, not distracted by material things.
Okay, after the manifestation of the Mahatattva, these features appear simultaneously. As water in its natural state before coming in contact with earth is clear, sweet, and unruffled, so the characteristic traits of pure consciousness are complete serenity, clarity, and freedom from distraction.
Okay, that's what our consciousness is like before everything else is created.
We come in contact with material nature.
Yeah. Well, this is material nature, but it's saying, but that the lower modes haven't fully manifested yet. So.
Ooh, what a nice consciousness, huh? Clear, sweet, unruffled.
Mm-hmm.
The material ego springs up from the Mahatattva, which evolved from the Lord's own energy. The material ego is endowed predominantly with the active power of three kinds: good, passionate, and ignorant. Rajas, tamas, or sattva, rajas, and tamas. It is from these three types of material ego that the mind, the senses of perception, the organs of action, and the gross elements evolved.
So what we just hear there, right? The mind, the senses of perception, eyes, ears, nose, etc. The organs of action, hands, legs, etc., etc. These are all and the gross elements evolve: earth, water, fire, air, ether. That's most of the material elements that we discussed earlier as part of the.
So interesting, huh? It's like and all our actions create different varieties, different combinations of that rajas, tamas, and sattva to create a different body.
Yeah. You know what would be fascinating if you got someone that really understood this, and then you had like an animated thing. But the point is one element is created, and then the other elements are being generated out of that. So first there was intelligence, then there was ego, and now from ego is coming all the different elements are kind of manifesting out of that. Now, and it's saying that from the false ego, different things, and from the false ego, in goodness, passion, and ignorance, different things are manifesting. So text 25 takes it to the next stage.
The threefold ahankara, the threefold ego, the source of the gross elements, the senses and the mind, is identical with them because it is their cause. It is known by the name Shankarshan, who is directly Lord Ananta with 1,000 heads. Say what?
In other words, the
help me, Kaustubha.
Again, I can't help a lot with this, but the ahankara, this false ego, which most simply could be understood as that force within material nature which roots our identity to our body, that it's something broader than just that. And from this element, various things are manifesting from. So here it says it's threefold, meaning it's in goodness, passion, and ignorance. There's three different ways it's going to create and manifest things. It's the source of the gross elements, the senses, and the mind. It's identical with them because it is their cause. Okay, and then this thing, it is known by the name Sankarshan, who is directly Lord Ananta with 1,000 heads. you know, that there are different forms of Lord Vishnu that are governing different elements within the material energy.
Okay.
And
I get that.
one of those is ahankara, or the false ego. And that false ego should be, you know, certain yogis can understand, I focus my meditation on sankarshan so that my ego won't overcome me, you know, so that I can transcend the material ego by connecting with the Lord of that element. Something like that.
Okay, I'll take that. 26. The false ego is characterized as the doer, as an instrument, and as an effect. The false ego is characterized as a doer, as an instrument, and as an effect. It is further characterized as serene, active, or dull, according to how it is influenced by the gunas. Interesting.
By the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, serene, mode of goodness, active in the mode of passion, dull in the mode of ignorance.
From the false ego of goodness, another transformation takes place. From this evolves the mind, whose thoughts and reflections give rise to desire.
Okay. So this is, now when it says the mind here, it's specifically the word is manas, right? So like, I think we could spend a little time on this verse here, and maybe the commentary as well. But the word manas, here it says manaha, manas. It's saying that now this faculty is developed. And it says, whose thoughts and reflections give rise to desire. Now, when we talk about desire, when we talk about what we want, when we talk about what we think, what our mind has been programmed to believe will bring us happiness or not, that's especially the manas, right? It's that impulsive part of the mind that has all this programming in it. And so here we see the word sankalpa, vikalpa, right? You've heard that contrast before?
Yeah.
Sankalpa,
Sankalpa, vikalpa. Was that accepting and rejecting?
Yeah, sankalpa, you know, literally means like one's determination or so.
Right.
And then, but vikalpa is kind of like, you see, Prabhupada here, he translates it as reflection. He says, whose thoughts, sankalpa, like this will make me happy. And then reflection. But I think, you know, when we use the term reflection, generally we think of like deep thought. That's one definition of reflection, right? Going into deep thought. But I think Prabhupada is using it in a more literal sense here, like reflect, like bounce back. Literally reflex means to bend back, right? You bend one way and then you bend back the other way. And I know even in like Hindi, the word vikalpa means like a different option, like an alternative, right? Like there's this, and then is there a vikalpa? Is there an alternative to this? So when Prabhupada says reflection here, he's not meaning deep thought, but he's meaning there's the idea this will make me happy, and then there's the bending back or the doubt that this will make me happy, right? I want this, I don't want it. I want this, I don't want it. That's what's going on in the manas, right? This will make me happy, this won't make me happy. I want this, I don't want that. You know, that's the functioning of this part of the mind, or, you know, larger mind, which is we are very much governed by. You know, we tend to be very much governed by, and this is really what the yogi has to start to get a handle on. You know, has to start to try to figure out how will I gain control over this. You know, why don't we read the commentary to this? See what Prabhupada says.
Sure. You want to do it? People are throwing me these takeaways, and I'm getting lost.
Well, no, stick with me, Raghunath. You don't have to. You can go to that at the end. You know,
they're pestering me.
No, just you see, look at you. You're grabbing after any squirrel that you can.
I'm feeling the pressure.
Just say, yeah. Why don't you read the commentaries? I won't pay attention to it at all. And then I'll look at the chat for it. No, you read it, Raghunath. I'm not going to read it.
All right. Oh, where are we? Ankara, false ego. What's
Text
27?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very, very interesting. The symptoms of the mind are determination and rejection, right? Acceptance and rejection.
That's the same thing, right? There's sankalpa, vikalpa,
right? Which are due to different kinds of desires. We desire that which is favorable to our sense gratification, and we reject that which is not favorable to sense gratification. So the interesting thing is, as we start to strengthen our intelligence, and how do you do that? By hearing Vedic teachings. As you start to strengthen your intelligence, your desires naturally change as well. because our desires are based on past actions that have left impressions on our consciousness. So I think doing that will make me happy. Doing this will make me happy. Sometimes even if those things in retrospect made me sad, it's from a polluted type of intelligence that our desires type of arise. So we are actually in the process of recreating the intelligence and thus recreating our desires and thus recreating our next body.
Nice.
The material mind is not fixed, but the very same mind can be fixed when engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, as long as the mind is on the material platform, it is hovering. And all this rejection and acceptance is asat, temporary. Great word, isn't it? Asat. It is stated that he whose mind is not fixed in Krishna consciousness must hover between acceptance and rejection. However advanced a man is in academic qualifications, as long as they are not fixed in Krishna consciousness, they will simply accept and reject and will never be able to fix their mind on a particular subject matter. Okay. It's pretty interesting, actually, right? As you become more educated in bhakti, you actually become more peaceful.
Well, not just educated, but let's say practiced in, right?
Yeah, as what you're doing is you're applying the knowledge, and you become more wise and therefore more grounded. Whereas in a material science, you can become more and more educated and still be spinning out of control. You could have a PhD, you could be a tenured professor, and you could be spinning out of control because you're not necessarily grounded. That knowledge doesn't give you wisdom. Matter of fact, the more you know sometimes, the more you're thinking, oh my God, I can't know everything. There's too much to know. And then some philosopher puts forth this idea, another philosopher puts up an opposing idea, and you could just spin out of control.
We could.
we have a good thing going on here. So the more we take it seriously, the more we get grounded and integrated, balanced, perhaps.
Yeah. You know, when we think of the manas, really the way that when you start to study all this stuff, it gets very complicated and very technical, and everybody says something a little bit different about it. So sometimes it's hard to really pin it down. But if we express things in more simple ways, we can get the gist of it and what's really important in the application of our own practice. So when we speak about the manas, we can really think about where desire is stored, right? I want this.
I like that.
I don't want that. But if we go to the Gita, Arjuna asks Krishna a question in the 3rd chapter. He says, well, why do we do things when we know it's not good for us? You know, why are we drawn to do something even though we know it doesn't help us? And Krishna replies, it is kama, right? It is desire that makes one. And then he describes where that desire rests, where it sits, right? And he says the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. So the senses, the manas, the impulsive part of the mind, as well as the intelligence, which is the truly reflective part of the mind. And when I say reflective, I mean that's where discernment and deep thought is going on in that sense. So which in one sense says, well, then what is the manas? So I did some studying this morning, and I was looking into the commentaries on the acharyas on this verse. And what I was drawing from them is that they were saying is that when that manas becomes, when that desire is sitting in the manas, then in a sense it makes servants out of the senses and out of the intelligence. The manas, the desires in the mind will make the intelligence its servant. And now your discernment and your reflective thought will be engaged in how to pursue the desires of the manas. You understand?
Backwards,
Yeah, exactly. When really what should be happening is that if one is feeding the buddhi, the intellect, with the right kind of information, right, with divya jnana, with transcendental knowledge, or even just, let's say, just jnana, right? Well, that's divya jnana. Understanding I'm not this body, my senses are just instruments, my mind is being programmed. Then you can use that to overcome the desire which is situated in the manas. So that impulsive part of the mind, if that starts to rule us, we're screwed, right? It's just like, and that's
Yeah.
that's the situation for most of us, is that
It's like getting it's like getting carjacked. I like to think of it like that. You get some crazy guy with a gun, and he says, "Move over. I'm taking over the wheel."
exactly.
Where are you
Yeah.
taking me? This guy's completely like, he's wired. He's high on cocaine. He's just like driving crazy. What am I doing with this guy? This is what happens when the desires pollute the consciousness. It's like our intelligence has been hijacked.
It's been corrupted. You could say hijacked. Yeah, however you want to put it. Yeah, and so therefore we hear Bhagavatam every day. We do it to strengthen the intellect, so that we can actually correct or purify the desire which is sitting there and really we can reprogram our mind to what we want to desire if we're determined. But
Yeah.
it takes determination, right? Therefore, at the end of that chapter, chapter 3, it's saying, Krishna says, I'll read it. He says the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this desire. Through
Senses,
them,
the mind, the intelligence are
Yeah.
sitting places of this desire.
right. It's really in the mind, the manas, but the intelligence gets corrupted by it, right? He says, through them, desire covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders them. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bhartas, we were talking about this in the end of the show yesterday, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, desire, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer. Regulating the senses means I'm going to determine what my mind is going to become programmed by. I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to look at that rather than other things, right?
Yep.
And in this way, I'm going to take care of what's going on in the manas. I'm going to reprogram that manas. He says the working senses are superior to dull matter. The mind is higher than the senses. The intelligence is still higher than the mind. And the soul is even higher than the intelligence. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as desire or lust, however you want to.
Beautiful.
All right.
Beautiful.
That's it right
All
there.
right. You
What are
ready for the takeaways,
Raghunath?
You ready
Yeah.
for the takeaways? Life comes
All
from
right.
life. Life comes from
Boom.
life. What do you think about that? All life is
I'm all
spiritual by nature. Here's one. Don't give post-dated checks. The
Don't
Bhakti
accept them.
bait.
Don't accept
accept them.
post-dated. Yeah.
Don't accept them. Like, in the future we'll be able to do this. No, I'm not accepting that. The Bhakti bait is taken and the hook is set. Our material life is over. How about that one?
Okay.
The Bhakti bait is taken. The hook is set. Your material life is done. How about this one? There is no balance. The world is collapsing. Manage the material world. Manage the material world. But Yoga Journal said something different.
Takeaways
Manage-
of doom.
Manage the material world, but get on with your spiritual life. That was pretty good. It's not your little thing. It's everyone who loves you's little thing. That was all
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Consciousness is irreducible.
Yep.
Good. Guru opens special chambers to the heart.
Okay.
Desire to have no desires. But actually, we'll clarify that. Desire to have
material
no
desires.
material desires. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our intelligence is polluted by desires.
Mhm.
Okay. Attachment to Krishna receives the bondage of self. Wait, attachment to Krishna
Relieves?
relieves. I think it's relieves. Thank you. That was Jiva. Okay. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are sitting places of desire.
Mm-hmm. All right.
There you go. That's my takeaway. And what
Thank
do you
you.
think about? And there's going to be no Sweet Baby Krishna today, but if you didn't get on Apple Podcasts and write a review or tell us your story, I'm going to be really angry. Okay, don't get me angry. I start throwing stuff around the house. Go to Apple Podcasts and write a review. Tell us your story. Give us 5 stars and tell us you love us. Okay. And thanks to everybody for joining us. We had 106 people, I think, today, Kaustubha.
Very good.
It was very good.
Parmananda, are you
very
happy
good.
with the darshan today? Oh, some people were asking for a close-up. Maybe I could try to do
Yeah,
that.
you give the close-up. Thanks, everybody's coming in late and say good morning to you. Trish. Good morning, Trish. Alex Bienz. There's some